Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Seeds of Success. I'm Dottie Sammartine, and with me today is my colleague, Jay Nephew. Hey, Jay.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Dottie. How's it going?
It's going great. Jay, I'm going to let you kick this episode off by letting our listeners in on what we're going to be talking about today, because it's really a topic that is so relevant right now. So take it away, Jay.
Sure. Okay, so today we're going to talk about first impressions, people. Now, I know you're probably thinking, I've heard this before, first impression, got to make a good first impression. True. You're probably thinking about a personal first impression, the way I did when we wrote down this topic and we were going to talk about it. But Dottie and I have come up with something a little bit differently, because for personal first impressions are pretty obvious. You want to smile, you want to make a good first impression there, you want to speak slowly and clearly, you want to make sure your posture is good and exude the confidence. That's great. These are things that you've been told your whole life. But what about your business first impression? That doesn't always come from a human being, does it? And in many cases, your business first impression probably doesn't come from a human being. Let me give you the first thing that I come to mind when I'm looking at going somewhere, doing something. My first impression comes from when I'm looking for the information on a website, right? Dottie, this is your pet peeve. If I go to your website,
I have a lot of pet peeves on this subject. Well, that is, how about this? Just one of my pet peeves.
It's one of your pet peeves. No, that's true. So if I'm looking up, your friend says, "Oh my God, that new restaurant's amazing. We went to Whiskey Cake for the first time." I got to tell you, it was amazing. But when I went to their website, I was wowed because it was beautiful. It was easy to find stuff. I could even reserve a table if I wanted to through the Open Table app or right directly with them. Like, they made it really easy to be a consumer. So my first impression of that restaurant was the pictures were gorgeous and inviting. The food looked delicious, and I was like ready to go, right? But oftentimes I've gone to research going somewhere or to something or about a product, and it was a hot mess, and I couldn't find what I was looking for. That sets the wrong tone right there. So yes, first impression might be a website. What else might it be, Dottie?
Well, actually, Jay, there's many touch points when it comes to the customer experience. And the touch points all are opportunities to make a great first impression. So by that, I mean, if a customer, you talked about a customer looking into the website and that experience. It could be how your employees are answering the phone. Maybe a customer's calling to get information that's never been in your center before. Maybe it's as simple as that customer has decided to have an experience there, and they turn into your parking lot, and it's the most beautiful parking lot they've ever seen. It's got greenery in it, and it's clean, it's well striped.
Yeah, there's no trash. They can find a space easily. The spaces are well laid out. But can I go back to the phone thing for Dottie? Because that's interesting what you said. You said sometimes your employees might not be answering the phone to the best of their abilities, or they might be, they might have an attitude about it. What if you don't have employees answering the phone and you have this crazy phone tree? That's a turnoff too. So if you have an automated system, is it easy for people to use? Is it, simple to get the information you want?
And, speaking along those lines, Jay, another huge turnoff is when you call a center and you're put on hold, and the hold music is gosh awful. It sounds like something out of the 50s.
Or it's blaring so loud that there's distortion on the phone thing, and you're like, this is super easy to fix,
Right, but you have to be aware that can become a negative first impression. Other ways that can, that customers can get a first impression of your center is, what they're seeing on social media. Is it a true representation of your brand? Does it shout fun? Does it shout professional? Does it shout clean? If you're not, or how are you replying to?
Yeah, are you replying? That's even half the battle for some of our businesses. They don't take their social media as if the person was standing right in front of them at the front desk, giving them a compliment or giving them some concern to address. That's exactly the same way you should attack your social media. Those people aren't in your business, but they might be delivering a compliment. You should respond to that in a timely fashion. Thank them for their comment, thank them for visiting them, and encouraging them to come back. Speaking of speaking slowly and clearly, I'm not giving a good first impression today. But
Jay,
then, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, and take that one step further. If a customer comes into your center for the first time and they are greeted by an employee that's sloppily dressed, I don't know, sloppily dressed, okay, sloppily dressed.
Oh, that's true. Disheveled looking, yeah.
You know, or maybe they have on an employee shirt that's super faded and wrinkled. Or
that
maybe
they keep in the car and they just throw it up in a ball and they put it back on when they come in. We know people who do that.
Maybe their name tag is hanging, you know, sideways. All those sound like, you know, micromanaging your employees, but it's really a matter of you setting that expectation of what you want that employee to look like and how you want them to react. But if you also walk in and you see an employee that is unengaged, that's a turnoff. I'll share
their body language and their posture is so important as well.
Absolutely. You know, I'll share with you, I recently went into a store in our mall, and I'm not going to name the name, but it is a high-end store that has always prided itself on customer service and always had a very polished image. And when I went in, there were 3 employees, all 3 in jeans. One had holes in the jeans, and they were all looking at something on the phone and did not even acknowledge that I had walked up to the counter. This is a high-end store that has always prided themselves. I was turned off. It wasn't my.
Well, you're a baby boomer. That's why you're a boomer.
But the fact that they did not acknowledge when I walked up.
There's no reason for that. None at all. None at all.
No, it was definitely, they got a new first impression. My very first impression was stellar because the service was always impeccable. As soon as you walked up, they knew. They made eye contact with you if they couldn't acknowledge you right away, and they took care of you. So, you know, we say we
Here's the thing you bring up, Dottie.
What's that?
Here's an interesting thing, Dottie, because we're talking about, we're getting a little off topic, but not really, because we have to teach the younger generation, these Gen Xers that are now, and these Gen Zers, that are now your employees, these 9 to 24-year-old-ish people. So you've got the higher end of that Gen Zers that are being employed. They need to be oftentimes taught people skills, the social skills. They need to be taught to look up and make eye contact just like you expected to, because their generation is learning from a phone. They're not learning from human interaction. So you have to put that time and effort in if you want your brand to have that same feel as you did 10, 15 years ago. You have to teach that behavior to your new ones.
You absolutely do. And Jay, I have to throw this out here because it made such an impression on me that the first thing I did when I got out of the store was text my husband. I also had an experience recently where I had a tag watch that I had to take into a jewelry store that I had never stepped foot in before, and they had to send it to the manufacturer to do some work on it. And one of the things they had to do was document the time that was on my watch, so that I don't know, that was just one of the little blanks they had to fill out. And the young lady was super courteous, but she struggled. She took.
Don't even tell me.
Yes.
I know where you're going with this.
Help. She did not have a clue what time my watch stopped on.
What do we say? Bless her heart.
And then at that point, everything went downhill for her.
For sure, because I mean, if you're in a jewelry store, you're dealing with watches every day. Girl, you better know how to tell time.
So how does that come back around? Again, setting the expectations. If you're going to put a frontline employee where they're going to have interactions with the customer, make sure they're properly prepared.
Yeah, we're going to do a whole show on setting expectations soon, so we don't want to dig too deep into that. But the point of this is that you need, if you have a business, whether it be a bowling facility or entertainment facility or restaurant, a jewelry store, it doesn't matter. You're going to need to possibly spend some deep quality time with younger generations who learned and grew up differently than we did. I mean, I'm an Xer, boomer, cusp kind of person, and I react and learn very differently. We learn this through marketing, that our generations are setting the foundation for future. So this isn't getting any better. This is going to stay the same way for this generation's not going to magically learn the same things we learned. They're just never going to. We have to teach them. If we want them to be important to them in a business environment, we are going to have to think differently and go take a step back and say, I might have to do some deep dive and work with X number of people to get this response that I'm looking for, to get this reaction, and to have them give the impression that I want for my business.
Absolutely. That is so spot on, Jay. So as we conclude today, I just want to leave our listeners with, take the time, stop, look, and listen to what the first impressions that you and your business are sending out, and make sure that those are the ones that you want them to be. So thank you guys for tuning in and listening to us today. And remember, grow your business one customer at a time. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you, Al.